Do we start with the roll call? Do we have to report on the closed session?
We don't have, go ahead, Bill.
I'll just state for the record that there were no reportable actions from closed session.
And opening this meeting, do we start with a roll call?
Yes. Director Clark?
Here.
Director Sukamel?
Here.
Board President Dye? Director Blanchard?
Here.
Director Seaton?
Here.
And on we've got Bill Parkin, legal counsel, myself, Chuck Duffy, general manager, and a host of guests. And we also have Steve from Kikuchi and Kankel and Tom Condor.
I don't see anyone from the auditor. I understood that was our first item. Well, let me see if there's, let me call for public comment on items that are not on the agenda. And how do people do that? They send an email, or they raise their hand in this meeting, or if someone wants to comment on an item not on the agenda, how would one do that?
Yes, they could raise their hand. Some the people who know how to do it, they can give me there's a little symbol that pops up in my thing there. So
Right.
on my screen.
Seeing no comments on items not on the agenda, is that phone number? Who is the phone number?
Probably.
Delia.
Okay, are we going to have someone from the auditor's office coming?
Yes, I believe Craig Fechter was going to join.
Well, since that person is not here.
They're probably on the other link.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just sent them the correct link, Barbara. I'm gonna.
Okay.
Wait, give them a minute or, okay.
Yeah, I had to call 5 times to get in, so it wasn't easy.
For some reason, the link from the agenda didn't work, but when I went to zoom.com and put in the meeting ID, I got in. So, no on.
All right. Well, we'll give it to 7:30. Yep, Vector, is that the person?
There he is. Yep, I sent him a new link, Barbara.
Great. So item 1 on the agenda is consideration to approve the audited financial statements for the period ending June 30th, 2019. And I'm very pleased that we as a entity are getting our audits done. You know, we can't do it until we get the SAM audits, but our audits seem to be done in a timely manner and actually look very good in reviewing the audit documents. So do we want to ask Mr. Fechter, the representative from Fechter, to speak regarding the audit?
Well, let me give just a brief, Craig.
Okay. Please, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to, I stated in my agenda memo, but you know, the audit as it does every year shows that we're in good financial standing. So generally what we do with the audit is take any questions we have from the board, and Craig's available to answer them.
Okay. Well, I was pleased to see that they found no material issues. They found that our procedures, they did not find any irregularities whatsoever. It seemed like a very clean audit for us, which I think is great.
Yes, it was.
Hi, Chuck.
Yeah. Hi, Craig.
I am. I kind of messed up. I didn't put this on my calendar, and so I'm in the car with my family, so I can address the board at this point if you'd like.
Sure.
I feel terribly embarrassed. I was just kind of going over my emails. I saw you emailed. I was like, okay, I totally screwed it. Normally, I'm at least moderately reliable on my, what's on my calendar, but tonight it just failed. So
don't apologize. I sent everyone to the wrong meeting to start it off. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm still the big.
We're all family people, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Thank you for speaking to us.
Yeah. So it was a very clean audit. We didn't have any particular. I guess the only the only concern or the only real thing that caused any kind of problem for us was really the issues with the mid-coast side, and I forget the name right now off the top of my head. Basically, there's a massive accounting adjustment we have to make that's based off of the net income of the of SAM, so or Sewer Authority mid-coast side. So we've been kind of going back and forth over the past 6 months with them trying to get good information. So they actually just released their 2018 audit relatively recently. That's 2018, so that's 2 years. They're basically 2 years in arrears. So that's really the only major complication. You know, Delia is very particular about how the financial statements look. I think that's helpful to us as far as preparing the audit report. My audit manager, Sandy Supp, has managed the audit now for probably about 5 years. And we really had no areas of complication, no specific difficulties. We had no concerns about fraud or any kind of misappropriation of assets or whatnot. So, yeah, we feel like the district's in a good financial position. COVID notwithstanding, that's obviously a big issue that's there for everybody at the moment. Just not being sure how the next 12 months or 24 months are going to end up. But overall, we felt the audit progressed well. Delia and Chuck are easy to work with. You know, they are able to review the financials, provide suggestions and recommendations, and we had no problem getting the audit report out in a timely manner. So
good news.
yeah.
And the SAM audits are coming. You know, the one that just got finished, the second one is come shortly thereafter. So
Yeah.
SAM is getting its accounting systems under, you know, in order, and we're looking at much better financials from SAM in the future.
So what happened? Do we know what happened that they got to be close to 2 years behind?
Probably, I'd say the previous administration and the previous finance people did a number on it. They switched, you know, they switched their accounting system, so that didn't help matters. So they're straightening up. They've got a new accountant, they've got a new GM, they've got outside financial help from a couple places. So I think they're getting their ducks in a row. So we hopefully within the next few months we'll have that second audit, and then they'll kind of be on a better glide path. So
yeah, that's great to hear. So, I mean, SAM of course plays an integral role in the district's financial position. We do confirmations of remittances to SAM because that's a big part of your budget. And then, of course, basically because of the arrangement that the district has with SAM, we have to basically record SAM on the equity method of accounting. In the past, we've always done it concurrently with SAM's fiscal year end. I think last year's audit for the 18 year, we kind of just got sick of waiting for SAM to finish their 18 audit. So we ended up, we took a look at all the two other agencies involved with SAM, ascertained that they were actually 1 year in arrears with them. So we made the decision to just release, again, kind of the same as the other agencies. So we were surprised to hear that they still hadn't finished their 2018 audit by the time we got there, you know, for the 19 year. But, you know, hopefully, yes, it will be a bit easier going forward. Preferably, we would get the SAM audit for the 19 year and then finish the 19 audit because of the financial reporting considerations there. But that just hasn't happened. So that was really
in the future. It will happen properly in the future.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great to hear. So
does anyone have any questions, detailed questions for Craig? No?
Great.
Okay. All right.
The one issue of concern, are you following, are you going to follow back up on that, or what? What's the next steps for you to kind of report back on that?
We'll just keep, so we're finishing up this audit, so we're going to use the prior year's financial statements from SAM like we did last year. And then we'll, you know, I'm talking with Kishan all the time about what's happening with their new audit, and that should be done in time for our next year's audit, and we should all merge and be on the same year.
So this one won't get amended, just the next year's audit?
No, correct. There'll be no amendment,
Yeah. No, so at some point, if we ever catch up, so for the 20 year, we come back and SAM issues their audit report by the end of 2020. for the 20 fiscal year. At that point, we would take those numbers and then update the district's numbers to be concurrent with Sam's. But for now, we anticipate Sam to be 1 year in arrears, so we're not waiting for 6 months or a year or whatever to release the district's report. So, you know, it is an important part of the audit because, again, it is essentially under the equity method of accounting. So there is a relatively large asset based off of Sam's results. But again, if the choice is to wait a year to have that report, it's not a very good choice for the district. So.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Craig.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great night.
All
Bye-bye.
right, you
Thanks,
too.
Craig.
Bye.
Moving on to item 2, consideration of draft.
Barbara, we have to approve it.
Oh, sorry. Can I have a motion to approve the audit?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, it has to be a roll call vote.
Yeah.
Oh, we do need a roll call vote.
Yeah.
I assume. Okay. Could we please have a roll call vote?
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Sukamel,
Aye.
Director Dye,
Aye.
Director Blanchard,
Aye.
and Director Seaton.
Aye.
Okay, on motion of Director Blanchard, second by Director Sukamel, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. All right. Now, moving on. Item 2, consideration of draft Burnham Park Plan. And our goal tonight is to introduce it to the community. And we, as part of our discussion, we'll be talking about next steps. We want to get more community input, so forth at future meetings. We have a big agenda tonight. So we will be discussing as a board whether we'll have a special meeting or take this up for our next meeting. So Chuck, do you want to speak to this?
Well, actually, I was going to turn it over to Steve Kikuchi and Tom Conroy. So they prepared a preliminary draft along with a 4-page agenda memo that shows the proposed plan. So I don't know who wants to take the lead, Steve or Tom?
I think Tom, yes?
Yeah, I'll take it from here. I've got a slideshow. Let me just share this with everybody. Everybody see that okay?
Yep. We've got
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you to everybody. It's good to be back in front of the full board. The last time our office had the opportunity to present conceptual work was a little over 2 years ago to the full board in May 2018. And so we thought it might be helpful to provide some brief background on the project and what's been happening since the last time we all got together. And just as a reminder, what everybody thinks of as the Burnham Strip is actually a lot smaller than it first appears. There's a lot of overlapping jurisdictions with not just the county and Caltrans, but also the Coastal Commission and potentially Department of Fish and Wildlife, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as well as the Army Corps of Engineers, all potentially having authority over different aspects of the parcel. And so as a result, we have largely concentrated our conceptual improvements to be within the limits of the GCSD's property line. There are some exceptions, but those have really arisen in partnership with San Mateo County. And I'll go over those a little bit later as I go through the presentation. Again, just as a reminder, back in May 2018, we presented 3 initial brainstorm concepts to the full board. These were very broad concepts intended to spark discussion within the community. A couple of weeks after the board meeting, we had a community session out on the site. And between those two meetings, nearly 100 comments were received on the concepts, and the overwhelming majority of the respondents supported a moderately active park based around this concept B right in the middle. Activities with strong support included a children's playground, basketball, skate park, and skate ramp, all surrounded by a natural landscape filled with native plants and grasses, picnic tables, and accessible trails. Notably, a lot of the respondents preferred the same or less parking, a permanent restroom facility, potentially with showers for rinsing off after the beach. And these findings were confirmed through a community survey that the district circulated last September with over 500 responses, as well as in the community workshop event in last October, where several dozen people got together in small groups to charrette and work out and sketch up their visions of a future park. And you can see some of the results of that on the screen on the bottom right now. Over the winter, our office, working in conjunction with the park subcommittee, distilled all of this feedback into this preliminary landscape plan, which was circulated with the staff report. As we discussed the plan, we thought it was helpful to break down the overall site into 3 distinct zones, each covering about 1/3 of the land. The southern third consists of the riparian zone that surrounds the Burnham Creek drainage. This middle section of the site is the active part of the park, and the northern third of the site is a more passive recreation area that's closest to existing homes. As you might expect, no significant improvements are proposed in that southern third. This area is a densely vegetated mix of some native and a lot of invasive species, such as Cape ivy and eucalyptus, alongside a fairly significant watercourse. Now, it's possible that future efforts to improve and enhance the vegetation here can be undertaken. In fact, our partners at the San Mateo Resource Conservation District noted that this area is a potential mitigation site for future Caltrans improvements. And you can tell on this slide that the majority of the vegetated riparian area is actually outside of the GCSD's property. But while we're not proposing any improvements within the limits of vegetation, we are showing a potential trail connection that extends from the Coronado Street crosswalk down on the bottom right of the image, up to Obispo Road and along Obispo until it enters the park. Immediately to the south of that Coronado Street intersection, the county has approved the design and funding of a trail extension that connects all the way down to the northern limits of Half Moon Bay. And so they see this as a potential continuation of that parallel trail. And you can see in the bottom left here, a concept of what that trail along Obispo Road might look like. It's likely that there would be some sort of curb or low bollards to help keep vehicular traffic separate from trail users. We've had, over the last year or so, we've had several conversations with county planning staff and Connect the Coast staff, and they are very interested in finding a workable trail alignment through this area to accommodate their goal of a complete parallel trail. Planning staff has even suggested that they could fund portions of this park project that relate to a parallel trail extension through the site. And we anticipate that the park subcommittee will be following up soon on that as we continue to refine the master plan. The middle third of the site is the most active part of the park, with concentrated amenities close to the downtown core of El Granada and away from the residential areas to limit disturbance and yet still maintain accessibility for the whole community. There are 4 dominant features in this area. The first is this large village green lawn and adjacent plaza, and the parking lot off of Obispo Road. And a lot of consideration and back and forth went into the siting of these 2 features, as one of the questions that kept arising as we worked through the project is this parking lot for residents and park users, or is the parking lot for beachgoers? And one limitation we kept running up against by keeping the parking lot in its current location is the county's riparian setback, which is 50 feet from the limits of existing vegetation. Now, this limit is currently ignored in the current informal gravel lot, but it would be strictly enforced with any proposed site improvements, and it would severely limit our opportunity for keeping parking in the current location. So ultimately, after several discussions with the county, we learned that county staff is actively looking at specific beach parking alternatives in the Caltrans right-of-way and other county areas. And so consolidating an appropriately sized parking lot close to the active amenities in the park was really the obvious choice. Filling out the active areas of the park are a redeveloped stormwater management area and an active play zone. And I'll go through these areas in a little bit more detail. This is the Village Green area and Central Plaza. And the proper entrance to the park is at the end of Avenue Portola at an entry plaza that has the advantage of welcoming visitors to the park. This is a multi-purpose space with opportunities for small groups to meet, potentially with a combination of fixed and movable seating. You can see some examples here on the screen of similarly sized plazas. I don't think any of these is exactly the right fit for our park, but they're about the same size as what we're showing on the attached plan. Now you can see the plaza opens up onto this large Village Green lawn, and the large lawn area has been a consistent community request throughout our design process. And this lawn will offer opportunities for community events, small performances, art shows, et cetera, that might overflow from the plaza. When events are not being held, this lawn is most likely a more passive recreation space for relaxing or informal play. Surrounding the lawn is a wide trail that allows for mixed bike and pedestrian circulation. And where the lawn extends on the north and the south towards the drainages and planting areas, these buffer planting zones occur. And these might be a mix of unmowed or no-mow type grasses, probably with a mix of native perennials or small shrubs that create a natural transition from a maintained green space to a less active area. The parking areas, as I mentioned before, the new parking lot is smaller than the existing on-site gravel lot with 33 stalls. But in addition to this parking lot, there is designated street parking at various points along the entire length of the park. And this should help reduce potential congestion in the lot for visitors who prefer to spend their time in less active parts of the park. All new street parking stalls would be protected. You can see some examples here where the curb bumps out around the parking and is filled with planting. We also anticipate that all parking stalls, whether within the lot or along the road, would be pervious, either permeable concrete or pervious pavers. But the drive aisles and road surfaces would be a typical asphalt. And this combination of materials is a best practice that's encouraged by the county and leads us into the next section about drainage. There are two man-made drainage ditches that currently split the site. The north one, pictured on the left, is a straight conveyance of street runoff. The other on the right emerges from a culvert at the end of Avenue Portola and slightly curves on its way west. Both of the drainages enter culverts and pass below Highway 1 and out into the ocean. The Resource Conservation District has found that stormwater conveyed in these drainages regularly exceeds acceptable levels of bacteria and heavy metals, as well as fertilizer runoff. And in 2017, they prepared a management plan for the GCSD in which they proposed revitalizing these channels through channel modification and aggressive replanting of native species to slow, spread, and sink stormwater as it flows to the ocean to allow increased treatment and infiltration. And this preliminary landscape plan expands on that concept by partially relocating the ditches and significantly increasing sinuosity, the meandering aspects of the ditches in their new locations. These red lines that are overlaid on the plan show the existing location of the ditches and where they have they've been moved to. In their new location, the northern ditch is almost 3 times its current length, while the central drainage ditch has been doubled, nearly doubled. And these would be wider, rounded bottom channels that significantly slow down water. They'd be planted with a robust mix of native shrubs and grasses to treat and filter stormwater runoff. A full hydrology study will really be required in order to determine the overall sufficiency of these channels, but RCD is willing and able to help us guide that process. Just for an example, this top left, this is a much larger project up in Marin, but you can see this used to be a straight creek where they have realigned and increased the sinuosity of that creek. This second photo, I think this is from Denver. This is a successful urban stream rehabilitation project. And it's important to note that the ditches on the Burnham Strip are not creeks or streams. They are really just open conveyances of urban stormwater runoff that are going to be completely dry for significant portions of the year. And so as a result, the effect of the improvement means that these ditches might look more like this photo, the bottom photo here of Temescal Creek in Oakland. And it's not a great photo. There's a lot of contrast there, but you can see it's a broad, open, meandering channel that's highly vegetated. And this photograph was provided by RCD as a good analog for urban runoff management. The relocation of the existing ditches also has the benefit of significantly improving the flow of amenity spaces across the new park, which allows for more natural connections. These spaces flow from one spot to another rather than the site artificially being carved up by the drainage ditches. A path between the two rehabilitated drainages could be a boardwalk to allow for comfortable crossing during wet weather events, and could have even have a small bump out deck area for seating and potentially interpretive signage. Outside of the—
interrupt you for a moment. Could whoever's talking in the background, can people who are watching this please mute themselves so we don't get the background noise? Thank you.
Great, thank you, Barbara. Outside of these realigned and improved drainages, there are other fairly significant improvements in stormwater management. I showed these 2 photos earlier when I talked about the street parking. These planters that border the street and surround the parking areas would be biotreatment planters that accept road service runoff through curb cuts. And they would provide an initial level of treatment before the water continued across the site into, and ultimately through the ditches and into the ocean. There's great examples. These pictures are good, but there's great examples of what curb cut planters could be right outside the Half Moon Bay Library right now. They are, here we are in mid-June. It hasn't rained in ages, and they are robust and attractive and full of native species that do a great job in filtering stormwater. A secondary treatment area could be in this area just south of the parking lot. This might be a rain garden. A rain garden is a broader area that accepts and holds stormwater for longer periods of time than the roadside biotreatment areas might be. Both of these areas, as I mentioned, are attractive year-round, filled with native species that are adapted specifically for this purpose. A further recommendation from RCD was keeping stormwater shallow and open to sunlight as much as possible. So in locations where paving and treatment features might conflict, that might be under a path or through the parking lot, open metal grates should be used to allow the channels to remain open to the sky. As the pictures show, these are not simply functional methods of managing pollution or runoff, but can be really attractive year-round amenities that provide educational opportunities and potential learning opportunities with nearby interpretive signage. Moving north, this is the active play area of the park. These are the fun areas. North of the parking lot and the new drainage areas, the existing skate ramp has been relocated alongside a new ribbon track for younger skaters and scooters. You can see the existing ramp in the top left, and the bottom right shows a couple of images of what that ribbon track could look like. Both of these features were among the top requests from the community throughout the public process, and consolidating them next to other active amenities in the park allows for parents with children of various ages to not have to split their supervision or, God forbid, make their children take turns. Also high on the list of community requests is a playground, and in this area, we're proposing an expansive natural playground with separate areas for young tots, say the 2 to 5 age range, and bigger kids, which is probably in the 5 to 12-year-old range. You can see these pictures are some examples of what natural playgrounds could be. You'll see a lot of wood members, large logs, boulders, stumps, rope and rope netting, rather than brightly colored metal and plastic like we might see in a more suburban playground. Next to the playground is a moderately sized play lawn. This would be an active space that would likely have overflow from the play structures and picnic area. I'm sure you can all imagine a game of tag or chase that starts in one play structure and extends its way across the other one, through the play yard, across the picnic area, into the basketball court and back again. Central in this active zone is a large group and family picnic area that serves really as a hub for all of these play spaces around it, including an adjacent basketball half court. Finally, serving as an anchor between the parking lot and the play areas is a restroom facility. And this would likely be a prefab unit using natural materials on the exterior with dense planting to the north and to the east, which would help hide and soften the building from view offsite. Prefab facilities like these have numerous options, including the potential for showers, which was one of the highly desired items from the community surveys. Finally, here, the northern section of the park. Compared to the center of the site, this is a more pastoral, passive area of gently rolling topography and large mass plantings. We see a mix of grasses and native species with potential pockets of specialty plantings here and there for additional interest. And weaving through and around, and in some cases directly through the berms, are pathways. The primary perimeter path is 10 feet wide to accommodate bike and pedestrian users, and would probably be best as a durable, pervious surface like permeable concrete. The interior pathways would be narrower, maybe 4 to 5 feet wide, and could be decomposed granite. One thing we're not showing at the scale of this drawing, you can see the picnic tables and play structures are really tiny. We do anticipate around this path numerous opportunities for benches to maximize views and to provide spots to rest. Just at this scale of the drawing, this is they would be little dots on the plan, but they're certainly part of the consideration, especially in the northern section of this park. Going back to the paths, the varying widths, the 10 feet and the 5-foot paths, are designed to accommodate a broad mix of park users, whether they're walkers or joggers or bike riders. But the wider path size especially is really important to conform to county standards if we're looking to partner with the county to incorporate this into the parallel trail. Carved out of some of these berms and mounds are several small picnic areas, each with a table and maybe a barbecue. Low gabion walls, that's the picture on the left, could retain the earth, and these are a lower cost, more natural alternative to wood or concrete walls. And we don't think any of these walls would really be any more than 3 feet, but hopefully, our goal with these nestling these picnic areas into the berms is to provide a little bit more protected, sheltered space, especially from the wind, and yet still maximizing views out to the ocean or into other areas of the park. These areas on the plan are some of the locations we have proposed for fitness stations. These small exercise facilities would reflect the same use of natural materials as much as possible used in the play structures to the south. It's interesting, in our current COVID environment, opportunities for active outdoor recreation are sorely needed. And an article last month in the New York Times suggests that outdoor fitness stations like these are experiencing quite a renewed interest. And finally, as I mentioned, should the partnership with the county for incorporating a portion of the parallel trail into the park design prove fruitful, ample opportunity exists to connect to a northern extension at some point in the future. Park costs. We've done some very preliminary cost analysis of what the construction cost would be. And our preliminary estimate is in the $6 to $6.5 million range. That does include contingency and other planning in there, but it does not include permit or consultant fees. Part of the scoping of the environmental documents will be to help narrow or broaden the scope of how many outside consultants, whether it's biologists, hydrological engineers, civil engineers, or potentially geotechnical engineers, investigations may be required for developing the park drawings. So this could add another 15 to 20%, depending on the level of review required. But at this stage, I really want to caution you, there is a really big delta because we're talking about a loose conceptual plan. And so these numbers can change a lot as we continue to refine and work towards a final master plan. Significant portions of the scope of work are eligible for grant funding. The county specifically encouraged staff to look into working with the California Coastal Conservancy, as parks like this are really right up their alley. And in addition, the county has expressed a willingness to help fund the trail work through the park. And finally, as we move towards the final master plan, that plan can incorporate and accommodate phasing as required or if required due to funding reasons. Finally, next steps. Now, if the board approves the general direction of the preliminary landscape plan, all feedback received from the board and from the public, as well as from our conversations with the county, will be incorporated into a final master plan for the board's review and approval, likely later this summer. Board approval on the master plan will allow work to proceed on preparing submittal drawings for the required coastal development permit, use permit, and design review from the County Planning Commission. And that, in parallel with that, work will begin to proceed on preparing the environmental review. And it's at that initial stage is where we have our first meetings with the Coastal Commission and Caltrans and potentially other agencies to really define the overall scope of the project and what environmental review is required. And parallel to all of this would be cost sharing agreements with the county for the trail work, as well as grant applications to partner agencies for things like the stormwater transportation and riparian improvements. So I hope that catches everybody up to what we've been doing for the last couple of years. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them, and I can flip back through the slideshow to any of these images if that's helpful.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you very much. I think you've done a great job. David and I have been the committee. I have to get back to my Zoom. Whenever you switch, it's hard. Have been the committee to work with Kikuchi and Coco on this plan. And I feel as if it incorporates really well the input from the community. I'm also, because of the issue on the setback from the riparian area, which meant that we could not leave the parking in the current location. I think it's interesting that this plan confirms more to the vision of the people who originally preserved this land and had the vision to plan to create it, make it a park. So I think that's an exciting part of it. I would like to have some discussion tonight about whether we should have a special meeting in July. I think the Parks Committee is scheduled to look at this and provide us with some feedback on July 6th, which I think is really critical since they're our designated community feedback partner. I think we want to have another meeting with the board on this. So I'd love to hear the comments of the other board members and anyone from the public who would like to speak on this topic. So I don't really see that there's a way for me to see hands raised, but who would like to jump in next?
I would.
Okay.
I think this is beautiful. I really like this. It's just, yeah, this is great. I do have a couple of questions. The northern straight trench drainage currently is shown emerging at the southwest corner, near the southwest corner of the proposed parking lot. And I'm wondering how you get that water over there. Because, and that is, beyond that, I want to ask Tom about how they have incorporated the existing wet weather storage facility that's out there and the one it's about to be doubled in size. And like, as far as I know, those manholes aren't going anywhere. So it looks to me like you'll have to probably pipe underneath the proposed parking lot to get the water to start over where it's conceived as starting. And I don't know how much subsurface excavation is possible in those areas.
Yeah, thank you for both of those. They're good questions, and I will answer them to the best of my ability at this time. Number one, we don't have the hydrology study. And so in conceptualizing the arrangement of these new or revitalized drainages, we've had to speculate a little bit and use our observations from what we can see. It's our belief that the northern ditch largely funnels surface water from about Avenue Portola to the south and all the way up to Avenue Alhambra on the north. There's a number of catch basins along there that appear to funnel into a catch basin that's directly across the street from where that northern ditch is. There's quite a drop off in elevation from where that catch basin is to where the water leaves the site along the Caltrans right-of-way line. And what we anticipate, or what we hope, is that we'll be able to pipe that water at a higher elevation further away from the bottom of that ditch so that we can slowly snake the water back and forth to where it meets its existing point. It's also possible that if you look at the plan, there's a strip, a green strip between the parking lot and the sidewalk just to the east of the parking lot there. It's quite possible that that might actually be the beginning of this northern ditch, which would then wind its way all the way around again. But again, further studies will be able to suss that out. Regarding your question about the manholes and the wet weather storage system, I didn't want to overlay that on this plan because I thought we might have too many overlaying graphics and it might confuse things, but I can We have looked at that, and all of the existing improvements avoid that the current wet weather management system right now. Some of the manholes would occur perhaps under paved areas or in the planting areas just to the north of the picnic area. There's a couple of them that may occur in the picnic area, but none of them are in the vicinity of the play structures. And there are rubber caps that fit over those manholes, and we imagine, on top of those rubber caps would be, a good layer of bark mulch as well.
I want to call on David now, because David's been part of the committee that's been working on this with me. Do you want to give us your thoughts, David, and how you think we should go about the public input?
Yeah, I think either way, have another meeting to get it out there, just since there are people that are going to want to have a meeting and comment on it. And, I think we're open to feedback. I think even this design, we talked about that there's still opportunity to add little things and make changes. And, even with the way that it is, I'm interested to see more details on the different types of grasses. So if I could get like a spec sheet where it says like, here's the grasses in this section, all the different types, and just to get a better idea of the lengths and things like that. Yeah, and then I think the cost is my only question. How do we go about? I think that's going to be the biggest question. How do we take that and break it down into the specific areas and wrap our heads around the budget portion of it, which starts to change everything once those numbers get up there. But the plan itself, I think, is good. I think we've come a long way and has everything that everyone's asked for, so I think that's the main thing.
Great, David. Just let me say that, to remind the community, we get $600,000 a year in property tax revenue that the state does not want us to use for sewers, which was why the citizens of this community voted to form a community services district to use that money to improve our community. And right now we're putting $400,000 a year of that aside for use on this park. And with that and this is not revenue that would go away, and it is not money added on to anybody's property tax. It comes out of the property tax that people pay and comes back to their own community and is available for this. It seems like too good to be true, but it really is true that this funding is available. So we can finance this without too much trouble. Yes, we're going to have a lot more discussions, but this is not a pie in the sky plan. This is something that is within the capacity of the financial situation of GCSD. Who on the board wants to speak next? Would someone else like to give us some feedback, and then I'll call on members of the public? Anyone who wants to talk.
Sure, I can talk. I mean, on the plan itself, I don't have a lot of comments other than to just say that I think it's quite thoughtful, and it seems to have really taken the feedback from the community and use that to come up with something that reflects what we've heard people want. So I appreciate all the work that everybody has put into making that happen. I do think there's probably benefit to a meeting to discuss with members of the public. Just I think just recognizing that for good or for bad, I don't know how many people look at the agendas to these meetings. So I think we want to put some effort into really advertising this specifically so that we can try to draw a diverse crowd and see what the reaction is to this from the public at large.
Thank you. Jim, do you want to speak? Oh, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I can hear you, sorry. Yeah, so the plans are very impressive and capture most of the ideas of the committee. So it's going to be interesting to see how bike traffic compares, how high the bikes will be going through the various areas, because if at a high speed, they may not want to go too close to the basketball area, things like that. So it's a matter of controlling the bikes, but that's just a minor point. But very impressive plans. That's all I have.
Sorry. Nancy Marshart, chair of our Parks Advisory Committee, did you want to make any comments?
Yeah, yes, and I'll, you said we'll have a PAC meeting where we'll brainstorm. Sorry, I made mini talk on my watch. Just a thought though, I read the new guidance from the county health department on meetings, and it does allow larger gatherings now, but still with social distance and health plans and so on. I'm thinking about that and a Zoom meeting I was on last week with about 40 people, and the challenge of keeping track of comments and questions in a gathering that big. I have an idea I'll just toss out. We'll talk about it at PAC as well. But I thought about the billboard that the fire station put up with the picture of the new fire station long before it was built. And my thought was whether we could have the plan put on a big billboard, at the end of Portola, with a web link or a QR code to take them to a special web page where they can maybe see more detail like Tom's presentation and post comments. And just, just give them a place to go and leave it up for a few weeks and just get as many comments from the public as we can in a very passive way without trying to do a meeting where they're all trying to give comments at once.
I think it's a great idea.
At PAC, we'll talk more about all the ideas we have about how to do that given the constraints we have with the health situation.
Well, I know we have a bunch more on the agenda. Pat, do you want to speak, or Michelle? And does anyone else who's on this call want to address the group? Pat.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well done overall for the playground design. I was just looking at the community needs survey results and seeing what was missing or less emphasized, but was highly rated on the community surveys. One was multi-use courts and a skate park versus what I saw here was a minor, what was it, a wave ramp, did you call it? A mini pump track kind of thing. I was wondering if you could speak to those two, and then I have one other comment.
We're trying not to have a big discussion of tonight, but go ahead.
Sure. Briefly, the multi-use court, that area where we're showing a basketball half court, I think that could be many different things. It's a pretty big area. I don't know if tennis would be particularly well suited out there. But it is a pretty broad paved area that I think could be adaptable to many different things. As far as that pump track, mini skate park, we have an area on the plan that occurs between the relocated skate ramp and the basketball court or multi-use court. I think the ultimate shape and the ultimate configuration of whatever that goes in there, whether it's a dedicated concrete bowl skate park or a skate and scoot track for younger kids, I think that can continue to be developed from a practical perspective. That doesn't have a big impact on any of the environmental work that needs to happen, any of the engineering work that needs to happen. So I think we can continue to have those discussions amongst the board, amongst the PAC, and broadly in the overall community, and put something in there that's really going to hit all of those spots, all of those targets, and target demographics for people that that are going to be using this park.
Just one quick final question. What sort of consideration are you giving for ADA compliance, American with Disabilities Act? Say, for instance, I appreciate a naturescape playground, but those generally are not ADA accessible. So where is your thinking?
Our expectation is that the entirety of the park will be accessible, at least the access routes. When it comes to designing the actual play structures, there are certain standards that we have to hit. Certain percentage of the play amenities need to be accessible overall. And I think once we get into the specifics of those structures, it's absolutely imperative that we provide accessibility for everybody. So, and we will then.
Thank you.
All right, unless there's someone else, I want to wrap this up because we have a whole bunch of big agenda items still ahead of us, and we will have another meeting where we'll go into much more depth on this. I just wanted to emphasize also that Caltrans is looking at doing parking within the right-of-way. Not Caltrans, I'm sorry, the county is looking at doing additional parking in the right-of-way for beach access because we've moved ours a little bit. I want to very much thank the Resource Conservation District for their help. The county planning department has been absolutely great to bounce ideas off and provide us with feedback. And I really want to thank Tom and Steve from K&K, who I think have really taken all the things that this community has thrown at them and come up with a design that I'm really excited about. So thank you very much. And unless someone has something further, I guess one more question. Would people like to have a special meeting, or we have a kind of light agenda on our next meeting? But as Chuck said to me, sewers and parks don't always mix, and maybe we should have a special meeting. I know a lot of people are traveling in the summer. I kind of would like to have, if we're going to have a special meeting, maybe even have it in the same week as our meeting. Can I just get some quick feedback from the board on that question? Matthew?
I like the idea.
Special meeting.
Special meeting. Okay, David?
Sure.
Yeah, I like the idea of what Nancy proposed in terms of doing whatever date we pick, giving us some time and doing a billboard and giving people the chance to comment, kind of leading up to that meeting, trying to drive as much, comments and feedback as we can before that, and kind of using that meeting more as a deadline, whether people have to show up or not. I think if we
want to mail this, given it's important, do we want to mail this out to our community?
I think we can look at that. I think that, but the putting it out there to
yes. Jim and Eric?
I'm inclined to mail it. I mean, I feel like we should do.
And the billboard. I love the billboard.
That's a really great idea. I mean, I'm inclined to go all out. I mean, I'm not really personally planning on going anywhere this summer, so I'm going to be around. But I do think, hopefully we'll have a lot of community input and interest, and so I think that suggests that a special meeting makes sense.
Okay. All right, that's what I'm hearing loud and clear. Jim?
I agree with Eric. Okay, a special meeting, and mail it out. Have as much publicity as possible.
I love the billboard idea. We're going to look into that. We're going to do a mailing of this plan to everybody, and we're going to set up a special meeting. I think that's everything we need to talk about for tonight. So thank you. Thank you again, Tom and Steve. You've done an amazing job. It's been a great pleasure working with you.
Great. Thank you, Barbara. Thanks to everybody.
Thank you, Tom and Steve.
Thank you.
So moving on, next agenda item is consideration to approve the Sewer Authority Mid-Coastside General Budget for fiscal year 2020-21 and related resolution. Nancy, did you want to say something first?
Did you skip the report on Parks and Recs, Barbara? Number 3.
Oh, I did. Sorry.
It will be very quick, and I just have
recreation activities.
one quick thing, and I'll hand to Claudia. We are having a meeting on July 6th at 7 p.m., a Zoom meeting. And so, of course, the board is all welcome. We will really publicize that meeting, and particularly on Nextdoor, to note that we'll be talking about the arc. So, we try to draw more public comment into that meeting. But the output we'll be looking for is similar to what we did after the workshop, is to bring you a consolidated view, both feedback on the plan and ideas about community engagement from PAC. The only other things on our agenda are any update from our pump track team, if they've been in touch with Nick and following any of the plans for the QP pump track, and to review and feedback on proposed summer and fall recreation proposals. So that will be the agenda on July 6th.
Great. Claudia, do you want to add anything?
Well, yeah, actually I would. We have not scheduled any activities, and now that the restrictions have been lifted, at least, to a certain extent, I would like to move ahead with end of July and August types of walks. As I mentioned the last time, with social distancing, with masks, and with a personal speaker system for the leader, so everybody can hear without being crowding together. And I would also like to include the rug hooking workshops that my instructor is willing to do. And outside, kids in a circle sitting on blankets, hopefully in Quarry Park. And it would be a week-long workshop, and we could do 1 or 2 of those before school starts. And a bunch of moms in Granada are so totally for this. They absolutely love the program that we had already and want to move forward on it. So basically, I'm asking the board to kind of give me the thumbs up to get moving on some of this stuff.
I think we're generally in agreement. Let's see some details. I see David has a thumb up. I agree. I don't know how to do that. Does anyone have any objection to moving forward and looking at specifics of some community activities? Good.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now everyone's showing off with the thumbs up. Nice.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on Parks and Rec? And I apologize for skipping over it.
Yeah, Barbara, it's on the reactions icon, but no, nothing more.
I'll find it. Consideration to approve Sewer Authority Mid-Coast General Budget for fiscal year 2020-21 and related resolution, which this is our second reading. Chuck?
So nothing much has changed. Well, nothing at all really has changed from the version your board saw at our May meeting. I gave a brief overview of that right now. I see we've had poor Kishan has been on this call for an hour and a half. So if you have any questions for Kishan Prathabadi, he's the general manager over there at SAM. He's online, but if you have no questions, you can take action at your leisure.
So this is the same budget that we reviewed in some detail in the last meeting. The consensus is that this is a radically better presentation than the previous budgets we've gotten from SAM. It's quite transparent. It shows reductions in staff and provides a really clear picture of where SAM needs to spend money. And as part of the finance committee for SAM, I'm sort of shepherded this budget through. I'm very comfortable with it. And I had a lot of questions about previous budgets. So I would, unless someone else has comments or questions for Kishan, I would like to ask for a motion to approve.
I'd like to comment.
Yes.
I reviewed this budget for both for a SAM meeting and for our last meeting, and it is the same. And my real comment is to commend Kishan on both the presentation and I guess, sort of bending to reality that SAM needs to start spending a little less money. So
Go ahead and second it. Thanks
Any
for your hard work, Kishan, and sorry we're not going to grill you.
And Kishan, we provide more compliments. I'll say from a staff level, it's been a pleasure working with you. And, I'll second the board's comments that it's nice to have someone kind of looking out fiscally for us. So I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
We established a new process at SAM whereby, goes to the finance committee, it has specific stages, it gets lots of review. And the 3 agency managers are very engaged in developing this budget as well, which is really important. Kishan's the one who gets the credit for bringing us a really thorough and an excellent budget this year. So any further discussion?
My only comment was looking at it before that the staff levels went down, but the budget went up, and just the reasoning from that and where those increases are coming from.
Kishan?
Yeah. Good evening. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to talk about the budget. And to answer your question, we did have a couple of under budgeting last year in certain categories, which we had to correct this year based on what we had spent. We have also kept aside some money for certain potential litigations which we might come across. So professional fees, legal fees, things like these have gone up. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Sam has done a lot of important repairs and handled them well and I think we'll continue to be doing that in the year ahead at the SAM facility, things that were overdue and are now going to be done. So, any other comments? Can we have a roll call vote?
Okay. Make sure everyone has their mute off. Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Sukomel?
Aye.
Director Dye?
Aye.
Director Blanchard? Got your mute on, Jim. Director Seaton?
Aye.
I got a vote and I got an aye from Director Blanchard. Okay, so on motion of Director Clark, seconded by Director Sukomel, the motion passes 5-0.
Yes, and I will note that, our percentage based on the flows has gone down considerably in the year ahead. So thank you very much. So the next item is the consideration to approve Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side Contract Collection Services budget for fiscal year 2020-21 and related resolution.
And as with the general budget, the collection services budget is the same as your board saw it at our May meeting. The good news is it's down about a couple $100,000 for all 3 agencies, and we've reached a nice cost sharing between the 3 agencies. So I think it's a good budget this year for the collections.
Let me just say for anyone, if there's public watching, that we pay SAM as a contractor to maintain the lines within our El Granada system and to handle emergencies. And there's a lot of advantages to this. The most significant of which is that the SAM people are here. And if we were to contract with another entity over the hill, there's nobody else here who could do it. It would be really difficult to get anyone here to handle any kind of emergency or cleaning. So this is not part of our general SAM budget. This is a completely separate contract that we have with SAM to do this maintenance. And so they clean our lines, they keep things maintained, and they've been really good about taking care of any kind of problems that come up. So that's what this is. If there's discussion, I'd be happy to have it, or if someone would like to make a motion, that would be great.
I will move to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any further discussion on this contract? And again, the amounts have gone down considerably, gone down $100,000 for this year for us. So I think this is good deal for us. Any further discussion? Can we have a roll call vote?
Hey, Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Sukamel,
Aye.
Director Seaton,
Aye.
Director Dye.
Aye.
I think we lost Jim. Director Blanchard? Okay. We'll have to record him as a absent. So motion
Can he
carries
vote if he
forward.
comes back? If he comes back, can he vote then?
Bill?
The item's still open.
So let's leave it open and move it on to the next item. Shall we do that?
Okay.
Thank you, Kishan.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome to listen to the rest of our meeting, but I think those are the items that affect you. So we appreciate your
Thank
being.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kishan.
Thank you.
All right, next item. Consideration to hear approve Granada Community Services District fiscal year 2020-21 budget. I'm going to open the public hearing and receive public comment. Is there any public comment?
No, and staff reporting staff received no written comment, Barbara.
Okay. And then Chuck, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so again, this budget is the same as your board saw at our May meeting. Nothing's changed from that. About approximately 65% of our budget are STAM costs, so they're a major driver in our cost basis. So, you know, we're in good financial health. Barbara had mentioned previously that we get about $600,000 a year in property tax. About 400 of that we sent to the Parks and Rec side, and 200,000 of that goes to the sewer side. And we're looking at doing approximately $1.2 million in capital projects. The main ones are 450,000 of that is SAM. We're hoping to do our Medio Creek crossing sewer realignment, which will take that pipe off the bridge and send it to the Naples Beach pump station, so we're not crossing a water course. And we're starting our 6-year sewer mainline replacement program. So we'll be replacing it. We'll be doing 2 years of that 6-year CIP.
So we're going to replace continuing a program of replacing the oldest and any problematic pipes in the system, correct? And we do it every 2 years so that we can get the economies of a larger contract. So people in this community will see some work in the streets in the next year or so, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yes. But
and John, yeah, Kennedy Jenks is finishing up that design process now, and we'll be moving forward bidding after that.
We've already reviewed this once. Does anyone have any questions? All right. Can we, I have a motion to approve the GCSD budget.
Okay, and can you, okay.
I'm sorry? Oh,
who moved?
Jim.
Okay.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion?
And you can you close the public hearing, Barbara?
I thought I already did.
You opened it. I don't think you closed it. Okay. All right.
Well, I'll close the public hearing just to be on the safe side.
All right.
And then we need a roll call vote, please.
Yes. Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Seaton?
Aye.
Director Sukamel?
Aye.
Director Blanchard?
Aye.
And Director Dye?
Aye.
Okay, on motion
Let's
of
reopen
Director
can we finish the previous item? We had a vote, Jim, while you were out to approve the contract collection services budget. There was a motion, a second. We all voted yes, but we held it open until you returned.
Sorry.
To get your vote.
Please approve it.
Okay.
Okay, so for I'm going to read it out, Barbara. So for item 5, consideration of the Authority Mid-Coast Contract Collection Services budget on motion of Director Sukumel, second by Director Clark. Motion passes 5-0. And then for item 6, which is a public hearing for the consideration of the Granada Community Services District budget, on motion of Director Blanchard, second by Director Clark. Motion passes 5-0 as well.
Okay, moving on to item 7, consideration to approve assessment district administrative budget and cost recovery levy for fiscal year 2020-21.
Okay, and what this item does, this is ministerial in nature to some extent. Every year we have our assessment district consultant prepare a budget for the levy of the assessment district that gets levied on all the parcels that are within the assessment district in the district. And this year the assessment total will be $602,376, and that will be placed on the tax rolls for collection. So we just need a motion and a second to approve the assessment district budget and cost recovery levy for fiscal year 2020-21.
Explain briefly what this is and who pays it, because it's not right. It's not everybody.
Not everybody. It's just I think there's something like 1,300 parcels in these. 1,288 parcels in the assessment district. So when the assessment district was formed years ago, they issued bonds, and this levy helps pay back those bonds on a yearly basis. The assessment district will end in 2022, so this levy should end in 2020. But I take it back. The assessment district won't officially end in 2022, but the payments for the bonds will end in 2022. So this is the second to last year of these payments.
And who pays? How was the makeup of the assessment district determined? Who's in the assessment district?
It was all undeveloped, and Delia, jump in if I get this wrong. It was all undeveloped parcels at the time the assessment district was formed. They were all assessment.
So the theory was that people who were new were going to pay more than people who were already here to add their houses to the sewer system.
Right. So the treatment plant at the time was expanded to accommodate any future development. And what those people are doing is paying down that treatment plant expansion at SAM.
Okay. I just wanted to really make it clear what this was. And so the people are paying, I don't know, it's $500 or $600 a year?
Correct.
It's actually a little less than that.
Okay. Yeah. And they will not have to pay it in the year after next.
The year after next, correct.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I guess I had.
Well, there may be some administrative costs, but there won't be any debt service left, okay, as far as we know.
And the money that it raised went to this expansion of SAM.
Yes,
correct.
The majority is going to pay back the bonds, and also it pays for the costs of administering the assessment district.
Right, but the money goes for something specific.
Yes, it was for the treatment. When they expanded the treatment plant to 4 million gallons a day, that's what the bonds were issued to pay down that construction project.
And did all three agencies issue the same kind of bonds and handle the costs the same way?
No.
No.
No. Yeah. I think Half Moon Bay took out and had an assessment district form, but I don't believe Montera did. So we all did it differently. All three agencies did.
Yeah, and I think what happened with Montera is they went to form an assessment district, and it either got voted down or something happened, and so that's why they don't have assessment. And that's tied. I don't know if you're tied to the whole loan that Granada and Half Moon Bay gave them at the time. That whole business, right? So I'll do the loan. I'll be on Zoom with the air quotes.
I wasn't around then.
So next year, when the payments don't appear on your tax bill, and somebody asks, "What did I get for this?" What's the answer?
They got 2
ability
million
to-
gallons, 2 million gallons of capacity at the SAM treatment plant. And if you're going to ask me whether that's a good answer or not, that is the answer. So.
Well, actually, all of these vacant parcels are being developed, so they would not be able to develop if we didn't have the treatment plant expansion, because we had no sewer capacity left. So all of the permit applications and permits we're issuing now, those are people who are paying the assessment district.
Right. Makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delia. Okay, we need a motion on this.
Correct, yeah.
Yes, someone want to make a motion?
Moved.
Jim, a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, I guess we need a roll call vote. Any further discussions? All right, gotta make sure we do that, give everybody a chance. Any further discussion? No, then could we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Seaton?
Aye.
Director Blanchard?
Aye.
Director Sukamel?
Aye.
And Director Dye.
Aye.
Okay, on motion of Director Blanchard, seconded by Director Clark, motion passes 5-0.
Okay, so moving on, consideration of sewer authority co-side report. One of the things that, as your SAM rep, I've been working on is that we had issues with the previous general manager and some of the financial problems that were there and a lot of other problems. And so we are putting in place right now a general manager review mechanism. It's going to come before the SAM board at our next meeting so that SAM won't go 3 years without a general manager review. So I think that's a good thing. At our last meeting, we talked quite a bit about the wet weather expansion project, and I'm hoping, Chuck, you could give us an update on where that situation is.
Yeah, so we had a Zoom conference call after, I guess, our last meeting or the SAM meeting. I can't remember which, but anyway, it was the member agency managers along with Kishan and Dan, and we just had a good discussion about the proposed project, which an additional 200,000 gallons of storage underneath the Burnham Strip for wet weather considerations. It's a $1.3 million project. That's about double what we had budgeted originally when we first considered this project, but costs have gone up. So Kishan and Dan Childs have looked at different options and alternatives to the project, and they've sent some of that information around. I haven't had time to review it, quite honestly, but I'm going to help us make an informed decision on that. So at the end of the day, our options are somewhat limited by the regional board's settlement agreement. So, we have to keep that in mind, that even though the project's under budget, we may need to do it just because of that. So I don't know, Kishan, do you have anything to add to that based on our last meeting? Maybe Kishan's not there.
Maybe it's just his name.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of the broad summaries of it. So they provided additional information. Half Moon Bay also asked for project alternatives, just so the board could make an informed decision. Is this the best project? Dan Childs had circulated a memo that I think at the time only went to the SAM board discussing alternative projects like a parallel force main upsizing the pumps at Portola. I'd asked him, the pumps at Portola are generally 30 to 60 horsepower now. If we up them to 250 horsepower, we could push more of the wet weather flow down the pipe, especially considering the new HDPE pipe is stronger and more, has less friction in it. That would require a lot of electrical work at Portola. So I talked to Dan and Kishan about, is there somewhere between 60 horsepower and 250 horsepower that we could push more water or sewage down the pipeline during wet weather, but wouldn't require $1 million in electrical upgrades. So, and Kishan, do you have anything to add to that, or was that a good enough summary?
Yeah, at this moment, we are in the process of finalizing an independent engineering firm who can weigh out the alternative options of either the wet weather storage expansion or upsizing the pump station or no project at all, and see whether we are comfortable with with all the storm events that has taken place in the past and the ones which are likely to come up in future, whether we have adequate storage tank capacity or anything like that. So we are in the process of finalizing it, finalizing an independent engineering firm, and we intend bringing it back to the SAM board in the second meeting in July, which is July 27th.
Oh, so it'll be after our next board meeting. Good. I am
Yes.
very interested in understanding more about design storm levels. It's my understanding that right now we're designing for a 6-year storm. That's too simple. I know it's more complicated than that, but I don't really know how it works. And it seems as if, given the changes in climate and everything, I don't know. I don't know enough about it. If there's anyone in the public who knows a lot about design storms, Eric, if you know anything about design storm levels offline, maybe you could help me understand this better. But the idea is that right now we have this big tank here in El Granada that if we have a really big storm, it can hold some of the fluid to reduce pressure, right? To hold it, you know, and
it doesn't reduce, it equalizes the flow. It acts as a buffer. It's an
like
equalization. Yeah.
Holds it aside so that it reduces, but the limiting factor at this point is how much they could go down the IPS. But since we now have all these new pipes in the IPS, we could set more down if we had bigger pumps. So,
right, and the discussion I had with Dan and Kishin, because we talked about that, and Dan's and Kishin, I won't speak for Kishin, but Dan is certainly a proponent of the bigger pumps. I said, if we used to be able to push 4 million gallons a day down that pipe, okay? So now if we could push 5 million gallons a day down the pipe with the new HDPE, could we get another 1 million gallons with a slightly larger pump that didn't require the enhanced electrical system, and being able to push another 1 million gallons a day down the pipeline might be the equivalent of a 200,000 gallon storage. Now, I'm not going to make that statement because I'm not a design engineer and nobody else has done that design work, but that's the discussion we had. So Kishin and Dan, I'm sure, have talked about it, and that's what maybe the consultant Kishin's hiring to look at.
And we've already had storms that use 2/3 of the capacity of SAM. It's 15 million, and we had storms that used 10 million, right? Less.
Correct. That was a December 2014 storm, which was in which we were worst hit, and I would say that the wet weather storage expansion, the storage tank at Portola was actually at the edge. If the storm had lasted for a few more hours, we would have probably had an overflow at one of the manholes.
Yeah, it's a complicated thing. So, and it's a lot of money. It's at this point probably $1.5 million anyway, because it's $1.3 million just for the contracting, and then there's going to be supervision and various other costs, at least a couple $100,000 more, which then for us is it's real money for us too to have to pay. So we need to, I think our agency needs to really think about how this is all going to work. So I'm happy that we don't have to vote until after our next board meeting, because maybe we can bring this to the board meeting again, and maybe I can understand more about design.
And Barbara, if we can always utilize John Rayner, who is a design engineer from Kennedy Jenks, if you want to talk to somebody more about this, because it gets like you and I, it gets complicated. There's instantaneous flows versus daily flows and things like that. So,
right, I know it's not straightforward. I really do understand, but so this is a big issue that we're going to have to decide on the SAM board is, and just to make it clear that the Regional Water Quality Control Board said if we do this, they'll kick in half our fine for the spill. So $300,000. But when you're talking $1.5 million, $300,000 split among the three agencies isn't that big an amount. So we really need to look at what is the best project and is it something we need? And it's interesting to me that there are these two very different alternatives being proposed to solve the problem. So I don't know, whatever the problem is. So, all right, well, I don't know that we're going to resolve this tonight. Anyone have any other questions on this topic? Matthew.
Well, you just answered my first question about, I want to know if the $300,000 was still in play, from the fine was still in play, and I guess the water board is still allowing us to do that. That's good.
But only for the wet weather storage, not for the pumps.
Right. Yeah, and well, and to some people, $300,000 sounds like a lot of money. I noticed that the bid papers the bid info was in the review again this week. So do we have a potential schedule for when this work may start?
Yes, if you're talking about the pump station replacement at Portola, which is out in the papers this week, are you talking of that, Director Clark?
I thought it was the storage facility as well.
No, the storage facility, the decision is yet to be taken by SAM board whether we move forward with that project. That's what we've been talking about. So the bids have been received, and we have about, I would say, 40-50 days until end of July, till when we can take a decision. Otherwise, we'll have to go back to the apparent lowest contractor to see whether he can hold the cost for a long time. But we've also bid for another project which came out in the papers this week. That was for the replacement of pumps at the Portola pump station. These pumps have already been bought, and this bid is for installing these pumps. There are two pumps which are 60 horsepower pumps, and presently they are of antique design with extended shaft. You have the pump at one level and you have the motor at a different level, and you have a long shaft connecting these two. So these are age-old, ancient design pump and motor combination which need to be replaced. And these pumps have been, the same horsepower pumps have been brought, and we are in the process of, we need to install those, and that's why the bids have gone out this week.
Yeah, I remember seeing those pumps. Yeah, that's quite a distance between that that shaft spans. Wow.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
If we move forward with the wet weather storage and we accept the lowest bid, it could happen in the next 3 months or so, right? Could start.
Yes, we hope that we'll be able to start work in August, because we have a commitment to the regional board to complete it by March 2021. And for the wet weather storage expansion, those concrete boxes take a long, they have a long delivery and they take quite some time. So it's imperative that we start as early as possible if we decide to go that route.
Thank you. Thank you, Kishan. I think those are the main things going on at SAM right now. You've seen the SAM, we've just approved the SAM budget, so I think it's good. Anything further on the SAM report? Moving on to the...
Nothing, well done, thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda, which is, I have to read this out, right? Approve the May 21st, 2020 special and regular meeting minutes, approve June 2020 warrants, approve April 2020 financial statements, and approve assessment district distribution number 11-19/20. Does anyone want to pull anything from the consent calendar? All right, then can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Great, my motion guy. Second.
Well, second.
Okay.
I thought I had a question, but I don't.
Any further discussion? We need a roll call vote on this.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Sukamel?
Aye.
Director Dye?
Aye.
Director Blanchard,
Aye.
Director Seaton.
Aye.
Okay, motion of Director Blanchard, seconded by Director Clark, passes 5-0.
Okay, committee reports. Report on seminars, conferences, or committee meetings. Nothing for me.
Nobody's meeting, as we all know.
Okay, attorney's report.
That's you, Bill.
No report. Yeah, my mute button.
Manager's report.
I've got nothing further.
Administrative staff report. Ilya.
Well, let's see here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You may have noticed that we've opened, obviously, the skate ramp, so it's being well used. So I'm sure people are happy about that. And I just want to mention that I'll be working on getting the new trash cans out on Surfers Beach and on Miramar. They're in front of the restaurant, hopefully within the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Great.
And nothing further.
I have a question.
I do.
Oh.
Yeah.
Has Recology said anything? Are they planning on a quarterly recycling day in, I assume, July?
Good question. I don't know. I can check on that and get back to you. I was expecting them to cancel it as they did the last one in April, but you never know. So I will check on that and let everybody know.
Great.
Can I just make one more comment? I'm sorry. I was muted during the SAM collections budget, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Tony Young for being such a great guy and helping us and doing such a good job on collections. So
he's really good. It's very helpful with your enclosed parking and so forth. He seems like a really good guy.
Yeah, he is. He's been great.
Okay, engineers report.
John Rayner submitted an engineer's report. So as I said before, working on the Meteor Creek crossing. The county has delayed their bridge project, which will help us hopefully. So if we can get our project completed before they do that bridge replacement, we won't have to realign the force main for, I think it was $40,000 or something. So, and then we're continuing design of that project, and we're currently in the process of doing environmental work, working with the city of Half Moon Bay. We did some CEQA work back in 2010 on that, so we're piggybacking on that, and they've Half Moon Bay has asked for some additional, I think, biological studies or something. So we're moving forward on that. And then we're still designing the 6-year CIP, and John thinks that will be completed by the end of this year, which is good news. And finally, Big Wave has submitted their application or permit to start construction of the sewer main to their project. So John is working with the people at Big Wave to coordinate that, our inspection of that and whatnot. So that's it.
Thank you. Future agenda items? Hearing nothing, I guess we'll say good, close this meeting and adjourn to closed session to finish our closed session meeting. Is there anything else to do tonight that I missed?
Can I ask you who is going to be available to sign checks tomorrow? A lot of volunteers. I just
leaving early tomorrow. Tomorrow's our 49th wedding anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
We're going off in the morning. So
well, Matthew's been my go-to. So is Eric or David or Jim available by any chance? Or any of you three?
I'll be around. You can give me a call.
Okay, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
all right, bye everybody.
We'll do the next ones.
Okay. All right,
I can do it if Matthew can't either.
Okay.
Anything further? All right. Well, then, are we going to leave this meeting and then come back?
Yeah. So I'm going to close. Just to be safe, I'm going to close out this meeting. We'll re-sign in. Okay.
Same number.
Go use the bathroom.
Same number.
Back.
Okay.
Great. See you in the queue.